Hello, my fellow Dreadites. Welcome back to the Dread Alert podcast. Today, I am joined by Samantha Hale, whose comedy special, Horror Nerd, is available on video on demand now. And I have to tell you, it is hilarious, especially if you're a fan of the horror genre, because there are so many in-jokes, and it is so relatable. Samantha has a large history and family history in the horror genre, and I'm so glad she's joining us here today. Samantha, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. I'm a Dreadite. Yay!
Right?
That's such a great
Absolutely.
name. Dreadites. It's like Deadites, but more.
But scarier.
Yeah, well, I know. I'm like, what do I call horror nerd people? Nerdites? That could work.
I love it.
Right? Yeah.
That works.
Yeah.
So, why don't you give me a quick pitch? What is your comedy special? What's it all about? Give us the log line.
Yeah, so it's a horror themed stand up comedy special, which usually people are like, what does that mean? Because I think I'm the only stand up comedian, like straight stand up comic, who's just purposely focusing all on horror. I mean, there are many amazing comics like Patton Oswalt or Dana Gould, who's a friend, who have really cool bits, but it's like my whole career, my whole life is horror, really. So it's an hour special of basically kind of diving into my relationship with horror, why I love it. I mean, of course, we're making jokes and roasting killers and, calling out different genres and whatnot. But it's more about how, like, I am a horror nerd. It's who I am. I'm one of those people where horror and fall and pumpkin spice is my entire personality. So I put it in an hour comedy special.
I am your target audience because that is
Yes.
how my wife and I live our life. We have a spooky baby. She just turned 2, and she's super into Scooby Doo. So we
Oh,
are a
cute.
right. She was Scooby Doo for Halloween too, but we
Oh,
are a horror family, and so your comedy special really. We laughed, but it was emotionally relevant. It resonated there as
yeah.
well, and so just it checked all
Yeah.
the boxes from being funny to being a love letter to the genre we live our life in. So thank you
And
for
that's
putting it together.
Thank you for, I mean, a love letter to the genre. That's the highest of all compliments and exactly what we were going for, really. I mean, I think we did like 11 drafts before we kind of got this nice balance of, okay, this is going to appeal to like the real hardcore nerds who are going to get the deeper cuts, but also a broader audience who might be like, hey, it's spooky season. I'm feeling like I just want to, I don't know, horror sounds fun. I'll throw this on. They're also going to understand it because it's not just about, well, I know that in 1970, like, it's not just about facts, it's about emotions, it's about
Mhm.
my connection with it. And my dad got me into this stuff when I was 8. And the more shows that I do and the more people I talk to, the more I realize that that's pretty common. Like, a lot of us who grew up with this stuff, our parents got us into it way too young, probably, and we developed this extreme connection to it, and it's nostalgic. My dad has passed. Actually, both of my parents have passed, and I talk about that in the special. And so when I put on it, I remember my dad letting me see that. And I remember like my dad had a white glove in the living room for some reason. And I was so afraid that Pennywise was going to like come into the glove that I made him burn it. And he did it. He's like, okay, I'm going to put it in the fireplace. Like, that's a memory I have with my dad now because of Tim Curry. Thank you, Tim Curry.
Right? We met
Yeah.
Tommy Lee Wallace a few weeks ago, and my wife was like, I was
Nice.
traumatized by it. And he's like, how old were you when you saw it? Because everybody sees it way too young. And
Yeah.
it's part of the experience. It's a coming of age ritual, I think, for a lot of us. And we all chase that dragon of the thrill that
Yeah.
those early films gave us. Yeah.
Right. It gets harder to get that thrill as you get older because we've seen so many amazing things. We've seen so many special effects. Like, they hate me in haunted mazes, like Halloween Horror. They hate me because they're doing an amazing job and they jump out at me and they're wearing all this special stuff. And I'm like, oh, cool, no, dude, you look great, cool. Like, they can't freak me out.
Same. I'm like, oh, that was such a well executed scare. And they're like, thanks.
They're like,
Bruh.
scream, dude. Like, go. Don't compliment me on the technicality of it. That's our way of showing appreciation.
Yeah, I admire the craft, and I really admire the craft that you put in. Having done a not very tight 10 minutes in my day as part of a theater project, I admire the craft that went into you writing this. And I have to ask, what was your process like? How did you take all of this horror experience and all of these personal experiences, marry them together, find the punchlines? What was your process like?
That's a great question that I actually don't get very often. I haven't really been asked about the writing process. Like the concept, absolutely, but the writing process, it's how I write material about horror is usually, so I'll rewatch the movie, and sometimes I'll just be watching it, like doing my workout or something, kind of half watching it, and my brain will just catch something. Wait, what? And I'll just think about something differently and realize that's a great opportunity for a misdirect or a comedy comes in threes or one of the various joke structures that we use. But also, I do a lot of research. I just, even though I've seen the movie 8,000 times, I'll go on Wikipedia, I'll go on the wiki fandom pages, and I'll just read about every single detail and see what my brain catches that maybe I never thought about before. Um, but ultimately, when you're writing a joke, you kind of have to get back in touch with why am I writing this in the first place? What was it that was so special or so upsetting or so tragic or so alarming or exciting about this material or this thing that happened that I had to go write a joke about it? Like, what am I trying to get? What's my point? What am I trying to connect to the audience with? Yeah.
That's really interesting, and probably where I went wrong when I was writing for that theater project. But how did you get into stand-up comedy in the first place? It seems like you had a sort of twisty path, as you
Oh,
allude
yeah.
to in your special.
To say the least. Yeah, I kind of fell into it. I did not want to be a stand up comic growing up. It never really occurred to me. I wanted to do the acting thing because my grandfather was an actor, my great grandfather was an actor, my great grandmother was an actress. I'm like, I'm genetically required to be an actor. So I was doing that. Right. And I still loved horror at this time, obviously. I was in a couple really terrible B horror movies that were awesome, but I was just like working so hard and not getting anywhere. And then one day a friend of mine said, "Hey, do you want to go see the women at Chelsea Lately at the Laugh Factory?" So we went, and it was Natasha Leggero, Jen Kirkman, Sarah Colonna, like really amazing women. And I was so enamored. I'm like, they're so powerful, they're so confident, they know who they are, they're not afraid of hecklers. Wow. And Natasha Leggero actually said, "Well, I used to do this show. Now it's a class called Pretty Funny Women. Check it out." So I took this class thinking this is a bucket list one and done. And here I am all these years later.
That's fantastic. I
Yeah.
find that a lot of us horror people are ex-theater kids.
Yeah.
I was
Oh, yeah.
talking to Clay McLeod Chapman, and he's like, you need to get a list of the horror authors who are theater kids, and we'll do a round table because there's so many of us.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is. And my suspicion is, and I think this applies directly to your special, is that it's an empathy thing. Horror asks of us to be empathetic across genders, with men rooting for the final girl, across class, across so many different barriers. And I think stand-up comedy asks us to do the same thing. And I think theater asks us to do the same thing. And I think film criticism asks us to be empathetic, at least if you're doing it right and not just out here to shit on films for views.
Yeah.
Um,
And people do that. And people do that. Yeah.
what does horror nerd mean to you? What does being a horror nerd mean to you?
It means that feeling when you put on a horror film that you love, that feeling of, oh, there's this new movie out, it looks so good. That feeling of your whole heart lights up and your whole like body just is like, woohoo! It just feels like, all right, fun times. It's like Halloween as a kid when you knew Halloween was coming and you're like, cool, I'm gonna dress up, I'm gonna get this candy, I'm gonna go here. It's exciting and it makes you feel like a kid again in the best of ways. I mean, I'm kind of as an adult focusing on my inner child more than ever, honestly. I'm like, yeah, she went through some shit when she was a kid. I think a lot of us horror nerds maybe had some stuff in the child. Maybe we were bullied. Maybe like I was a really heavy kid. I was bullied pretty severely. My parents divorced quite young, like, and I'm an only child, so I kind of had to live in my head a lot as a kid. And horror films, I'm like, oh, look at all these new friends I have. This is great. And so that feeling of giddiness over horror, I think that's the nerdy part. Because I view the word weird as a compliment. So the idea, especially like with the live show with Horror Nerd, is like, hey, this is the place where all of us weird kids can get together and just take risks and be silly, and perform in character, talk about things that we wouldn't really talk about in a normal set. And my favorite thing is to see when someone who maybe isn't a big horror nerd is now, like, I have a friend of mine, Jeremy, who does every show with me. He's never seen the Nightmare on Elm Street series, and like, he's a grown ass man, and he'd never seen this stuff because he wasn't into horror. But now I've taken him under my wing, and now I'm forcing him to. And he was literally like live texting me as he was going through the Nightmare on Elm Street series. He was like, "Oh my god, what? Zsa Zsa Gabor!" like flipping out. Not Roseanne Barr. How are all these people in this? Loving every second of it. And he had never seen obviously Nightmare on Elm Street 2. He's like, a final boy? This is awesome. Like he loved it. Him and his husband loved it.
And that is such like and I know it was tough for Mark Patton, but that was such a queer icon film.
Yeah.
It was such a breath of fresh air in the middle of the 80s where everything was so repressive too.
Right, right. And
Yeah.
extra bonus points. What a dear friend of mine who I absolutely adore is Christopher Young, who was the composer on that film.
Oh,
He's been a guest on our podcast, and he's just the loveliest person on the planet. I met him at Midsummer Scream, and I didn't know who he was at first. So we just started talking. And then once I realized it, I'm like, holy shit, you composed Hellraiser? You're that Christopher Young?
that theme is on our Halloween car ride playlist. It's an epic
Exactly.
theme. Yeah.
It's romantic. It's beautiful.
Hellraiser's on my top 10 list for sure.
It's right
But you,
behind you. I see it.
yeah, right. Truth be told, that's signed by Doug Bradley, who you mentioned in your special and is in your
Uh-huh.
special thanks, and Clive
Uh-huh.
Barker. We met Clive at one of his last conventions,
Oh,
and just the loveliest man, so nice to our like infant daughter at the time. It was just a lifetime
wow.
experience. But
See,
yeah,
those are memories that you're going to have for the rest of your life, all because
yeah,
of Pinhead, really.
yeah,
Pretty
right.
cool.
And Doug Bradley's just a class act. Like, I mean, just
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
a good guy. But
Yeah.
you pretty much described my childhood in describing your own. Heavy set only child in the 80s,
Yeah.
watching horror too young.
Yep.
And one thing that really differentiates us, an obvious thing, is that I'm a male horror fan and you're a female horror fan. And I wonder, and this question comes from my wife, do you experience, my wife is my producer here, and she runs a side
Yep.
channel in the Dread Alert Media Network. We share this love of horror. We bonded over horror. But she wonders what your experience is as a female horror fan, if you find it, at least your perception of it, to be different than a male horror fan in a male
That
dominated fandom.
yeah, that's a great question. What's your wife's name?
Sarah.
Hi Sarah, what's up girl? Good question. One of us. There's a huge female horror there's a huge female like everyone loves horror. I don't know if maybe it was just because women like no it wasn't really cool in the 80s at all. Like you were still kind of that weird kid, but especially for a girl, we were supposed to like Barbies and stuff, which was so stupid. I never cared about Barbies. I wanted to play with my horses and I wanted to watch my scary movies. That's all I cared about. But I think we've always loved it. We've always loved it equally. And it hits maybe a little bit differently for us because unfortunately we when it comes to true crime, we are quite often the targets of that. Not saying that men are not, because they absolutely are. There are all kinds of crazy people out there, but it's very cathartic in a way of okay. And I think that's why we like true crime as well. It's like, well, what can I learn from this? How can I in a true crime sense, how can I honor that victim and learn from her and send love to that person and hope that this doesn't happen again. But it's also like, we're raised as women, well, put your keys in between your fingers just in
Mhm.
case you get attacked. And I'm like, really? We're teaching women not to do that. Let's teach men not to attack people or anyone not to
Yes.
attack people. I shouldn't say it's just men. But so we kind of were raised with this real life fear. So it almost seems safer to watch, okay, well, if I watch Nightmare on Elm Street, I know that Nancy's going to be cool in the end. So
Mhm.
it's kind of it's like, I don't know, it's like a release in a way.
Yeah.
But also like we have a dark side too, just as much as men do. We just weren't allowed to show it because we had to be prim and proper and all that crap. And thank goodness it's much better
Interesting.
now. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. And horror is like the most inclusive space, right? This community is
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
But it's interesting on how you're describing your relationship to the final girl as cathartic in one way, where men might experience a catharsis of their own vulnerability that they're not allowed to be in touch with in a different way. So it's an empowering thing for a female viewer, and it's a vulnerable thing for a male viewer. And I'm not trying to split this along gender lines in any tangible way. Everybody is on a spectrum of how they
Sure.
engage with
Yeah.
gender, and so by that means horror. But it was an interesting question that Sarah brought up and wanted me to ask you, and I think her experience has been similar to yours. Is that when she was younger, it was a bit more taboo for her to be interested in something like that, and I think as a female content creator, she sees the supporters and the detractors, and then a group of people that I rarely see, the weirdos in the comments saying, "Show me your feet," and
Oh
it's just a very,
God.
it's a very
Yeah.
different experience.
Yeah, and we, but I hate to say it, but like we as female comedians, it's a lot better than it used to be. But there are still a handful of those dudes who are in their basement, their mom's basement, like women aren't funny. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
well, just because my life experience as a woman isn't something that you directly relate to because you're not a woman, it doesn't mean it's not funny. It just means it's not your cup of tea. That's
Yeah.
okay, right?
Or you're not
There
curious enough.
Right. Or I don't want to say you're not smart enough to think outside of your own box, but like think outside of your own box, man. There's
Yeah.
so many different people come from so many different backgrounds and experiences that none is it's all equal. No one's better or worse than anyone. It's just, hey, I have a different life experience, so my sense of humor is different than yours. But
Yes.
there are people out there who are just so threatened, like, well, I could have done that funnier. I'm like, okay, well, go ahead. I dare you. Get on
Do it.
stage. I dare you.
Yeah.
But they won't talk to me in person at all.
No, right? Everybody's a stand-up comedian until you have 50, 100, 200, 1,000 eyes on you and you have to land a joke. And I can say that
Yeah.
from experience because I was hilarious in my head before I stepped on stage.
I know.
Everybody clapped when I was done, but for the wrong reasons.
Oh, I'm sure you were great, but it takes a while to get good. It
Yeah,
really,
it
really
really
does.
does.
Sometimes people just want to be like, oh, where's my Netflix special? I'm like, you're 2 years in. Chill out. Hold on.
Right?
Get good
I had
first.
the I had the benefit of it being a warm up to a stand up comedian play about a stand up comedian. So I was supposed to be bad. I was supposed to be the bad opener. So I had that
Okay.
blanket of security. But
Yeah.
yeah, it made me really respect the craft because it is as much of a craft as it is an art form.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about what we're doing, it's scarier than a horror film. We're getting up in a room full of people, and hey, strangers who I've never met, I'm going to share my most intimate, darkest secrets. And if you don't laugh at a certain line that I also wrote myself, I'm going to hate myself. It's not normal. But it's like you conquer that fear. And it's kind of similar maybe with horror films. Like, I don't go into a horror film thinking, oh God, okay, here we go. Like
Yeah,
I don't want to say I'm like comfortable with being uncomfortable, but I'm comfortable with being uncomfortable.
yeah. You certainly get used to living in that space for sure.
Right. Right.
I wonder. So horror comedy is its own subgenre in its own right, and it has a very important place in the horror canon. Do you have
Hmm.
any theories about why horror and comedy go so well together? Why they're the chocolate and peanut butter of the horror subgenre?
The
Because I
Reese's
think
Pieces.
yeah, you blend them perfectly. Your special is the holiday pumpkin version with the little bit of extra peanut butter, that perfect blend. You know those are better.
Love
You know
it.
those are better
Oh,
than the normal
yeah.
Reese's. So
Oh,
horror
yeah.
nerd, horror nerd is the Reese's pumpkin of the candy line, and I wondered if you have any theories as to why they blend together so well.
Oh my God. I'm going to put that on a bumper sticker. I love that so much. I, so it's similar, like horror and okay, like setting up a joke and then like setting up a kill. We're kind of doing a similar thing where we're creating tension. We're taking the audience on this ride with us. They don't know where it's going to wind up. We're making them really uncomfortable, like oh, and then we reward them with either a punchline in comedy or a kill scene or the victim gets away. Right. So it's kind of like you take them on this magical ride of excitement and then release. So it's very similar. And also, and I say this all the time because people forget that it is a physiological thing as well. Like fear and excitement in our bodies are very similar. It's a very similar kind of science behind it. Not that I'm a scientist in any way, but it feels kind of the same. So when I was first starting out, when I was really, really nervous, I would say, Samantha, you're excited. I would try to reframe it. You're excited. Your nerves are kind of going because you really care and you're really excited. Okay, cool. So I tried to convince myself of that, even though I was terrified for the first several years. Yeah,
Yeah, of
yeah,
course. And I think you're onto something there. I think there's an element of surprise that has to be there.
yeah.
You can't let the audience get ahead of the scare. You can't let the audience get ahead of the punchline. I want to shift gears and ask you a bit more of a growing up personal question, and it's probably the most obvious question, and you've probably answered it 1,000 times. But what was it like growing up across the street from the Poltergeist house? That's so cool.
I'll never get sick of that question. I didn't know at first, to tell you the truth, because I was so young. What grade was I? I was so young that I didn't put it together. I just was. I mean, my dad and I we grew up watching Poltergeist together. It and Poltergeist were kind of two of the very early ones. And the scene in the bathroom where his face falls off, that messed me up pretty bad also. And they did that at Halloween Horror Nights this year. They had that scene in the maze, and I was like, yes, best part. Um, but I didn't know. I thought, oh man, Simi Valley, this sucks. Like I didn't know. I just knew that I was away from my friends that I was going to school with in Los Angeles. But once I figured it out, I'm like, are you effing kidding me? I've been walking past this place I had no idea. All summer long, I've been carrying my little groceries back and forth by the Poltergeist house. I lost my ever loving mind. I was so excited. I was like, I think I put this in the special because I was like, divorce is great. You guys should have broke up sooner. This is so
Right.
great. Because I didn't have any friends out there, to tell you the truth. So it was just me in the Poltergeist house. Um, and now it's an Airbnb, which is pretty amazing. And the woman Rachel, who owns the house now, is super lovely, and she's coming to the show this month, which I'm really excited about.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
My next question was, have you ever been inside? Have you like walked around it at all?
that's my plan, is to
Yeah,
invite her
right.
out, and hopefully, I mean, my ultimate like nerd dream goal would be to do a show around the pool. How great would that be?
Right?
Backyard around the pool. That's
Yeah,
my goal.
100%.
So I'm gonna try to
Yeah.
make it happen.
Honestly, I love that idea. We're in Pittsburgh, so the Buffalo Bill House from Silence of the Lambs is nearby,
No
and
way. Have you gone?
I've not gone yet, but they're like
Let's
a
go.
convention acquaint. I know, right? They're so cool. They're like convention acquaintances of ours, and I just we need to get out there. They do tours and they do Airbnb, and we've been to the Night of the Living Dead Cemetery and the Dawn of the Dead Mall was there last weekend. So those like horror home bases for like these films that are iconic in your life, they're so lovely to visit, and it's just. I don't know. I saw so much of myself in your special, which just speaks to how approachable you as a performer are, but also
Thank you.
how yeah, no, thank you for doing it. You're amazing, and also how well tailored for horror fans your piece is. I can't recommend this highly enough. If you're still listening to us, go check out Horror Nerd. I have so many more questions, but I just wanted to give them a plug in the middle here.
Yes,
Um,
please.
so another thing we have in common is an appreciation for the Halloween trilogy directed by David Gordon Green. I had to mark this down because I feel like when we find each other in the wild, we have to at least address the fact that we didn't hate Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends.
Why don't people? I loved it. I don't understand
Right.
why people are such haters.
I
I
I
liked
totally
it.
agree. And I want
Yeah.
to hear your thoughts. So open floor, tell me if anything what you loved about it. I just want to share this with you.
Yeah, I mean, if you get Jamie Lee Curtis, you're winning already. I mean, I love H2O, don't get me wrong. And I think H2O had one of the best moments in all of horror when friggin' her mom, when Janet Leigh drives up in the psycho car with the psycho music playing and then gets out and says, if I may be maternal for a moment, I died. I died. It was
That was
amazing,
for
right?
us. Yeah,
That was for
absolutely.
us. That was the way
Yeah.
the normal normies didn't get it. That's fine.
Yeah, right.
But the thing that I really loved about um I guess specifically ends really was like, okay, there's a lot of psychological aftermath of having running from the boogeyman your entire life and then feeling like you've passed that curse down to your daughter and your granddaughter. I mean, there's some that was fascinating to me how they handled that. The darkness, the I really love the storyline with Allison actually of like, yeah, she's rebelling. She's making some choices. She's going after the bad dude. Like she's dealing with trauma. Like trauma, it doesn't just go away. PTSD doesn't just go away. So I thought it was really sophisticated that they brought that into the mix. And I know that some people didn't, sorry, spoiler alert, they didn't like that Michael didn't have enough screen time, that there was another, but that creative, that was different. And I thought he did a great job. The actor did a great job with that.
Totally agree. And the
Yeah.
boogeyman is the shape. It's not necessarily Michael. This is my grandstand here. It doesn't matter who's under the mask. And frankly, the mask might not even matter either. It is an absence of personhood. It is pure evil.
Yeah.
The
Right.
shape can be anyone. And I think that's what makes Halloween Ends particularly frightening is that the shape could be contagious or the shape could be any one of us. And I
Yeah.
also think it's a really well-directed art film in disguise as a slasher. I
Yeah.
think,
It is very
you know,
artistic. Yeah.
yeah. So, no, I love that trilogy and I have made videos in defense of it. And so when I find another fan, I have to pick their
We
brain
have to
about what,
stick together.
right?
Yeah.
Honestly, somebody commented you're doing the devil's work with this video because I liked it and justified
That's
my
funny.
love. But,
That's
hey,
funny.
I've been
Yeah, and
accused
I
of worse.
Yeah, if that's the worst thing we've been accused of, that's fine. And like that radio scene and the way that they were in the radio station, that reminded me of the Warriors and the Fog. I was like, this is fun. I like
Yeah.
this. This is the
Oh,
music. I mean, they used the Cramps in there. I was like, this is
right.
great. I
And good
enjoyed
eye on
it.
the fog. That's a
Yeah,
good. Yeah, absolutely.
thank
I
you.
didn't even connect it. But there were so many Carpenter allusions in that from the obviously Christine framework. But yeah, the
Yeah.
fog, spot on.
Yeah. We just on Dia de los Muertos, November 1st, we went to go see John Carpenter play in downtown
Oh,
LA. And it was so fun. And like at the end of it, he was like, okay, I'm going to ask you guys one thing. Make sure to drive home safely because Christine is out there. And then he played the Christine. It was great. It was so good.
I never, I wish I could see him live. It's like a dream. I had the
Bucket
opportunity to
list.
meet him, right? I met him at a con twice. I met him at two separate conventions, and the second time, the first time my wife blushed and melted down because, and she doesn't get starstruck. She's stone cold, but John Carpenter got to her, and he just was tickled by that. And the
Oh,
second time,
cool.
he was tickled by our infant daughter who had just had a diaper blowout. We like wrapped her in a blanket because he didn't have a line. Which we're like, smelly baby. Yeah. We're like, we're just gonna stand back a little bit with the smelly baby. But he was like the most charming, grumpy old man I have ever met. John Carpenter, chef's kiss, perfect, wonderful
Yeah.
human being. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
he just seems like just a funny character of a
yeah,
guy who's seen it
he
all and
really
done
is.
it all, but still has this sense of humor.
Right. And
Yeah.
I know I've talked about a lot of con meets that I've had because I'm a convention head myself, and your bits about conventions resonated so much with me. I have to ask,
Yeah.
do you have a list of favorite con meets? I won't ask you to pick your all-time favorite, but who was great that you've met?
You know, there's so many people that I've been excited by, but I have to say my all-time favorite, I don't know, dude, I got to give it to Kane Hodder. I'm obsessed with Kane. I love him. The first time I got to meet Kane was so my friend David Bertolino, who created Spooky World, there's a new documentary out called Spooktacular, which is amazing. So David kind of brought me into this world of all these amazing horror icon actors that he, used to bring to his theme park back in the day. And so one day he was like, "Hey, we're all going to Buca de Beppo before Monster Palooza. Do you want to come?" Oh, Kane Hodder is going to be there. I said, "What? We're having spaghetti with Jason? Hell yeah, I'll be there."
Right?
So we go, and that's how that joke came about and that I put in the special because I literally said that to him.
Yeah.
Which, if you haven't seen the special, it's just a true story about how Kane showed up 20 minutes late, sits down next to me, and says, "Hey, everyone, sorry I'm late. My Uber driver got a ticket on the way over." And then I said, "Oh no, I hope you didn't get in Uber trouble." And then he looked at me holding a knife and said, "Please tell me you're not a comedian." And we were friends right away. He's so funny. He's so cool and real. And the Doug Bradley story actually. That also happened at Monster Palooza. Was that this? I think that was the same year. The next day, maybe I don't remember. But so basically, long story short, Doug Bradley challenges me to write a joke about him that has never been done before. I freak out and I'm like, "Oh God!" And I like left, came back a half hour later, and he didn't think I was coming back. I don't think. And so after I went and like wrote all these jokes, I realized, oh, my angle was my first boyfriend was the one that got me into Hellraiser, and so it was kind of like the personal jokes. I'm like, he's never heard this before. He doesn't know my ex. Anyway, so I'm really proud of myself, but I decided to go to Kane's booth and I'm like, Kane, this is what just happened. He's like, well, let me hear the jokes. And I did the jokes for him. And he's like, that's hilarious. He's going to love it. And he was so fucking supportive and funny. And Doug's reaction was not quite as big as Kane's reaction. Because, Doug is very like, he's just so cool and like British and professional and like lovely and terrifying at the same time. And you want him to like you.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was just such a cool experience. And then also, a funny story is David, this was years later, David calls me and he's like, "Hey," because they were doing the spectacular premiere in Los Feliz. He's like, "Hey, I need you to do me a favor. Can you pick up a friend of mine who's coming to the screening tonight?" And I was like, "Sure, okay, cool." And he's like, "Yeah. So he's staying at this hotel. Just pick him up here, and then here's his number. Just text him when you get there." So I did, and freaking Kane walked out. I was like, "You butthead." So it was really fun. I didn't know. I'm like, I'm picking up Kane, and
So
so we,
cool.
yeah. So we drive over there, and and he's so funny. And as soon as we get there, he's mobbed by people who want autographs and stuff like that. And he's so nice. He signed every single one, was really nice to everyone. And the best part was, oh my God, I just realized this was a full circle moment. Actually, I never even oh my gosh. Okay. So as we're walking up to the theater manager comes out and says, oh, hey, do you want me to help Mr. Hodder get in? I can get rid of all these people. I said, I think he's fine. And then I looked at her and I knew exactly who she was. And she was like, oh, hi, I'm Michelle. I'm like, oh, hi, Michelle. It's nice to see you. And she just kind of looked at me like awkward. And then I said, oh yeah, we used to do the Rocky Horror Picture Show together. That guy that I wrote the Hellraiser jokes about, he actually hooked up with her. And so I was like, oh, hey, Michelle, have you met my new boyfriend, Jason Voorhees?
That's amazing.
I just put that together. Wow. Okay. Crazy.
A preview of Horror Nerd 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah, exactly. I'm writing the sequel right now.
Right. Kane busted my balls for a solid 15 minutes. We were at a tiny convention and like he had the time. And Kane takes forever with everyone in line.
I know, he's so genuine.
Right. He busted my balls for not joining SAG when I was a must join. And I was like, I just didn't want to pursue film all that seriously. And he's like, I think Lar Park Lincoln was there. He's like, Lar, this guy didn't join SAG. But he's just busting my balls. It was like, it was an epic convention moment. Kane Hodder is the greatest.
The greatest. And I just saw him at Son of Monster Palooza last month, and I was able to like give him the postcard with the cover on it and be like, hey, Kane, you're in this. And it meant a lot to me and it meant a lot to him. And I have a picture with him holding it. And I was like, will you sign my own cover for me? Because you're in this, dude. Like it was a really cool moment. And I just think he's so great. But I should say, I do want to give a shout out to Midsummer Scream in Long Beach. That is my all-time favorite convention. And we've been so lucky to get to perform. We've done the show there. Thank you, David Markland. He's the best. David and Claire Dunlap are so great. So we did the show this year where I hosted as Annabelle. I called the show the Annabelle Sessions. And the idea was Annabelle is now an anger management therapist. And all of these icons of horror want to talk about their feelings. So they would come on and their set was like them talking about their feelings. So we had a Ghostface, a Chucky, a Norman/Norma. And it was just my friend Tommy, like he did like the split face of half Norma makeup, half Norman. And he just argued with himself for 10 minutes. It was awesome. And then we had Jason Voorhees and we had a comic planted in the audience as his mom. And so she was like, you're doing great, honey. I love you. And then, yeah, it was great. It was really fun.
So something else we have in common, and I hate to be like hyper specific about your comedy special, but these are things that like just resonated with me. It's our love.
Yeah.
Hey, our shared love of holiday candles, specifically Halloween candles.
Yeah.
And you name dropped 2 candles. One I bought this year because I think it was a new scent, and one it was last year's scent, but it was still around this year. Pumpkin pecan waffles, and and the blueberry maple pancakes, I believe it was new for this year. I have recently hit my limit on candle storage space. I could probably reach just out of frame and pull a pumpkin s'mores. So that's that's how legit we are.
Are we the same person? Here's
yes.
Pumpkin vanilla creme.
Oh, yes. So I have to ask you what your all-time favorite is from any brand. We are not sponsored by any brand, but or any store or any mall outlet. Honestly, at this point, I should be buying stock. But do you have a favorite scent? Is there one that lingers through the years that's just great?
Well, first of all, I should say that one of the scariest moments of my life was when my boyfriend first moved in and he was like, oh, hey, I need a towel. I'm just going to go grab one and I was like, no, my candle collection is in there. He's going to see I'm a crazy person. Oh boy, because I have a lot. But he didn't break up with me, so that's good. But I would say actually the one that started me on Bath and Body Works is blueberry maple pancakes. I'm a blueberry junkie. I just love anything blueberry. And I like pancakes. So I was like, that seems like a win. I'll just get this one. Why not? And then I was like, wow, this is really good. And then my friend Lori Blitz, who I blame for my candle addiction, my friend Lori is in the special. She's the one where when I did that joke, I looked at her and I was like, "You get it," or I said something to her.
Yeah, yeah.
That's my friend Lori because first of all, she definitely gets the pussy reference, and second of all, she's the one that got me into these dumb candles in the first place. She's like, there's a rewards app. I'm like, oh no, now I'm
And the
hooked.
single wicks are good for the
Yeah.
redemption. It's the mess.
Yes.
I'm in too
Oh,
deep.
oh, I know. And for me, I buy all the body spray and all the smelly stuff too. So I just have and then they just put out Disney villains. I'm screwed. I'm screwed.
Oh,
I have a
yeah.
whole
My
thing
wife,
full of this.
she's got the hand sanitizer holder. Like
Yeah.
we're at least united in this, although she has drawn lines. She's like, our entire entertainment center, instead of having like DVDs in them, we have like DVD shelves because that's where all the candles are.
So do
And
I. There's literally a pumpkin carving candle in my. I'm on a VHS kick right now. I'm collecting VHS.
yes.
Oh yeah, I've got pumpkin carving. I've got what is this one? This one's like blueberry cotton candy. Oh, it's Maine
Ooh.
blueberry cotton candy, and it's Maine and it's blueberries. It makes me think of Stephen King, so I'm keeping
Yeah.
going. I'm just saying.
Uh, if I might recommend, Honey
Yes,
Crisp Hayride is such a banger if you like apple scent. It
have
like if
it.
app. Oh, yep,
Totally
right.
have it. I've got the
Yeah, it is.
wallflower and the soap too. And and the spray. I've got the spray, the what is it,
I,
this room spray right over there too.
I can see mine from here. I have the room
Oh my
spray as
god.
well.
Are we
Because you
the
can,
same person?
right? And honestly, like, so our lived experience is like, I mean, it's like, I saw Scream in theaters at 13. I went like
Yeah.
3 or 4 times. I was there
Yeah.
opening night on Blair Witch Project. Like we have so much in
Yeah.
common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember my mom took me to Blair Witch in Simi Valley and we saw that movie and the whole time it was just like, wait, what? And then I remember it scared me the next day. Like the
Yeah.
next day I started really thinking about it and I got really like freaked out.
Did you have the experience? And so there was no way you missed the marketing campaign for that. And like, is it real? Is it not real?
Yeah,
But
I
did you have the
remember.
experience going in like, I might be the one to solve this. It might be real, and I might be the one to see something.
Yeah, yeah, kind of like, is it? I don't, what is, it was just, it all kind of felt like, I don't know what's going on, but I think this is not real, but wait a minute, where did these actors go?
But yeah, I remember sitting in that theater going, when's it gonna pick up? But also, I'm like white knuckling this. Like, is it?
Yeah.
And it's like one of my top 5 favorite movies. I have to just preface that. But like, I remember white knuckling that and being pretty sure it was going to start soon.
Yeah, like it's coming, it's gonna get here. That's how I felt. I saw The Exorcist and I talk about it in my special when I was 10. And I think I had already seen so many horror films that I didn't really understand the brilliance of that film until until I was an adult, really, and rewatched it. It was like, this is incredible. This is wonderful.
I totally
Um,
agree.
yeah, and I actually so I'm a dog person. I love dogs so much. My soul dog love of my life passed away not that long ago, and so like I waited, and then I was about to be like ready, and I almost took a dog from Linda Blair, and then I found a kitten, and I'm like, okay, I guess I have a kitten, and sadly the dog that Linda had wound up being not cat friendly, but I did get to
Oh,
know Linda through that. We were texting, and just she was so sweet, and she was so lovely, and I still feel bad. I still want that dog, but
hmm.
I'm worried about my cats. But one day, Linda, one day.
That's an amazing story. First of all, she seems lovely. I've never met her, but she seems amazing.
Yeah, she cares about those dogs more than anyone. She's such an animal advocate, and I truly admire her for that.
We were dog people who changed to cat people too, so we'll add that to the list of shared lived experience. And that's why we have room sprays, because cats have no fear of candles, and they probably should.
They do not. And that was why I logged on like right in time because somebody threw up right in front of my computer right before I logged
They're
on.
good for that too. Scarf
Totally
and barf.
normal.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's fantastic. So I'm going to ask you a few questions we ask everyone who comes on, but they're tailored for you a little bit. So,
Fabulous.
what is your favorite horror comedy, if you can pick? And you can give multiple. I know I'm putting you on the spot. You can run down a list of them. You can send. I had one guy on the show who is a brilliant director send me a list of 30 films because he could not pick his favorite horror film and he
I
didn't want to
love that.
misrepresent. And I was like,
I
we'll put it
love
in the show
that.
description. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
fantastic.
I know that feeling because whenever I say, what's your favorite scary movie? And they look at me, I'm like, I know that's a rude ass question. I'm so sorry.
I know.
But horror comedy, now this film has been kind of, people argue about what genre it really is, but one of my top three movies of all time is Beetlejuice. I was
Hmm.
raised on Beetlejuice. So horror
Yes.
comedy, I'm obsessed. I can watch, I mean, I've got my sandworm on my arm. I love Michael Keaton. That movie I watched, so I had like I recorded it off TV. I had my little VHS tape, and I watched it so many times that my mom like had this boyfriend that was kind of a douche, and he got sick of me watching it, so he recorded over football one day just to piss me off. And I'm a kid, and I
Oh,
remember that was like literally one of the worst days of my childhood, was coming home and okay, time for Beetlejuice, and I would put it on and it was football. I cried. But I love Beetlejuice, and I like the second one as well. I don't give a
yeah.
shit. I love Beetlejuice. Um,
Agreed.
yeah, and but also Shaun of the Dead would be a great one.
Mm. Yeah. Hands
But
down.
then there are movies like Weapons wasn't supposed to be funny, but it was so flippin' good. Like Gladys
Yeah.
was such a character. She's such a new icon that that scene at the end when the kids start chasing her, we were like, "Bah!" We were like dying. It was so good.
Yes, I totally
It was-
agree. And it's interesting because horror comedy is there's a blend, right? It's either like leans comedy or leans horror.
yeah.
You have to pick a lane, and Weapons picked its lane, but it was still quite amusing at
So
times.
good.
Yeah,
God, Amy Madigan was so good. Was
yeah.
so fucking good.
And I totally relate to Beetlejuice. I was like that kid as well. I loved the animated series. I could not get enough
Same. I
Beetlejuice.
love the animated series.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't have a lot of like Beetlejuice action figures as I recall, but I had like the bed. I was obsessed with. I asked for it for Christmas, I think. The bed where you put the Beetlejuice in and you like do that, and he comes out little.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
right?
Which, and that's
Yeah.
probably worth something now. I mean, that's the crazy part.
If
All
I
this
can
collectible
find
stuff.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It'd be hard to
it's
find.
definitely in my basement in a bin somewhere that I took from my mom's house and have not opened since she was like, "I'm cleaning out my basement."
Oh, I hope it's in there
uh,
somewhere.
I do too. Okay, so next question, even harder. What is your favorite horror movie of all time? And again, you can
Halloween.
give multiple.
Halloween. Halloween. Halloween.
Same. Yes,
We
same.
are the same person.
Right.
Oh
Your
my God.
description. Your description of that movie was my exact experience with it. Like I'd seen a ton of horror, and then it was just like something changed for me with
Yeah.
that movie. And
Yeah.
I credit Scream. I credit Ghostface himself because I feel like Scream is an encyclopedia, at least at the
Definitely.
time, was a roadmap for young horror fans. And when I went hunting, I found the shape. But I want to hear. This isn't about me. Why do you love Halloween?
It's just, it's one of those movies where it just feels like the whole movie is alive. The whole movie's a character. The leaves falling, the way that
Hmm.
you can like, when those opening shots of Haddonfield, it just feels like you're there. You can feel the air, you can smell the leaves. Like it's so well done. And I love that there's no blood in it. You know, it's just this psychological. It's more in your mind. It was like sometimes less is more. It was such like a,
Yeah,
I don't want to say minimalist because I think it was just budget issues, you know, but it was just so good. The music, there was an atmosphere to it that I don't know if any other movie has captured.
I agree. And I think what they fail to capture is Michael stalking. Like
Yeah.
they're not afraid to linger on him watching or standing.
Yeah.
And like that just when that's present, the movie is different. And yeah, I totally yeah, absolutely fantastic movie.
Yeah. Here's the thing you might get a kick out of. So years ago, I went like up the road to my Wells Fargo, right up the road. I needed to open an account. And they're like, "Oh, okay, well, this is Mickey. He can help you out." I was like, "Cool." So I go into this office with this, banker, and he's really funny and he's really cool. I'm like, "This guy's awesome. I don't know where this guy came from, but we're getting along great." And I don't know if I was wearing like a horror t-shirt or something because somehow the question gets brought up. He's like, "Oh, what's your favorite scary movie?" I'm like, "Don't ask me dumb questions. It's Halloween, obviously." And he's like, "Oh, yeah, I was in that." I said, "I'm sorry?" He's like, "Yeah, I was in that." I said, "Like with Michael Myers, like the John Carpenter movie?" He's like, "Uh-huh." I said, "Well, what are you talking about?" He's like, "Yeah, well, my dad is Erwin Yablans. He was the producer, and I was the little boy at the very beginning who said the boogeyman's gonna get you, and then knocks the pumpkin out of Tommy's hand."
Yeah,
He's like, "That was me." I'm like, "What?" And we've been friends ever since.
that's fantastic. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh. Yeah, and that was Erwin's son. That's so That checks out. That's
Small world.
right. I
Yeah.
those are some people, speaking of conventions, that I have a few, but like PJ Souls I've never gotten to meet,
Oh,
and
she's
Nancy
great.
Keys. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just one of these days. They're gonna go on my babysitter murders poster back there.
Nice.
But awesome. This has been so fantastic talking with you.
Yeah.
Where can people see Horror Nerd?
Apple TV, Amazon, Google Play, YouTube. I mean, you can just go into your internet browser. What am I, 100? You can go into Google and just look up Samantha Hale horror nerd. There's no W in front of it. Horror nerd. And I will pop up. Yeah, and we also have a podcast streaming now, wherever you get your podcast pleasure, Spotify, Apple, whatever it is. It's called the Horror Nerds Podcast because there are multiple co-hosts, and again, that's just like a group of friends who just love this shit. And we do sketches, we do like commercials with horror actors, like we did a commercial for Strode Realty because remember her dad
Oh,
is a
yeah,
real estate
yeah.
agent. So, but we made like Jack Torrance, one of her agents, trying to sell hotels. And like, I think Annie Wilkes was trying to sell a rustic log cabin,
Yeah.
like we
Very
have fun with it.
relaxing.
Yeah, we definitely have fun with it.
That's awesome. And that's available wherever you get your podcasts?
Sure is. Yeah.
Sounds awesome. Well, where can people find you if they want to stay up to date with what you're doing?
Yeah, I'm sure everyone is on Instagram. I'm posting all the updated clips and show dates and all of that. So it's at the Samantha Hale, also at Horror Nerd Comedy.
Fantastic. And is there anything that you'd like to plug that you're working on next?
Ooh. Actually, my next project, which I'm really excited about, is I am writing a short film about Lizzie Borden, which I'm really excited about. And we're gonna basically we're blending. What would happen if Lizzie Borden wound up on, let's say, a Joe Rogan type podcast? What would she do to those guys? So stay tuned for that. That is actually where we're in rewrites right now, which I'm really excited about.
Sign me up for that. I appreciate your willingness to go into the true crime sphere as well. I know that some people are like, no, just horror, not true crime. But I think that the real world can be just as horrific, if not more horrific.
Oh, more so. I mean, I people actually ask me because we run the show at the Hollywood Improv every third Friday of the month. So if you're in Los Angeles, please come check us out. We also, speaking of true crime, have you seen The Mortician on HBO?
No, not yet.
Okay, so there's this former mortuary in Pasadena, the Lamb family mortuary, and the guy, David Sconce, who was running it, was doing horrible, bad, bad, bad things like harvesting body parts and selling them, putting multiple bodies in one oven, really, really awful, awful stuff. Thank goodness he got caught, went to jail. He's out now, which is not scary at all, because
Yeah.
I run my show at the former mortuary. I also run it
No.
there. Yeah. Yeah. So the ongoing joke is like, what if one day we look at the ticket event and David's name is on there? What do we do? Do we run? Do we lock the door? Um, but yeah, I know it's a lot. But so I do a theme like at the Hollywood Improv. Every month has a different theme, and when I first started, it was the big ones: vampires, paranormal, body horror. Okay, sure. Now we're 4 years later, so we're getting really weird and specific. But I do get the question a lot: would you ever do a true crime themed show? And I'm like, I just don't know that you can make that funny because these are real victims, these are real people, these are real families affected by this. So I mean, we could make fun of the killer, but like, fuck those guys. Why are we giving them any attention at all?
100%. It's a
So
very difficult line to walk, being respectful
yeah.
and having a sense of humor.
Yeah, it's hard. Like the one thing that like when I go to conventions, sometimes they have the booths where they have all the like serial killer gear, and I'm like, I don't know that I want to wear a Bundy shirt. I don't want to celebrate that piece of shit. But everyone process. But you know what though? Here's the thing: everyone processes trauma and fear differently. So I don't know if that's cathartic in some way, or I just don't want to be like Michael Myers is not real. He's fun to have a good time with, but we're not idolizing someone who's actually hurt someone. So,
Yeah. And I think that, and I don't mean to get too heady, but I think that there's also a shift happening in the slasher fandom right now where where that third act identity shift, where we're like not rooting for the slasher to kill all the terrible characters, and now we're rooting for the final girl. That's happening
Yeah.
less and less with some of the bigger slasher franchises and some of the movies that are coming out. You see people who are like, no, let's just be brutal. I want to see brutal. And that worries me a little bit. And it
Yeah.
probably is related to the
Yeah.
Bundy merch that's out there, or the people who are standing Ted Bundy because he's hot. Like, that's
Like, he's not gonna make an exemption for you, girl. He's gonna take your ass out too. Don't be a tum
right.
tum. This is
I
not a
feel like,
well person.
yeah, absolutely. And I feel like there's an empathy crisis. And I don't know, for what
Yeah, that's a
little
good way
part
to
of the
put it.
garden yeah, thank you. But for the little part of the garden that I can tend, I want to encourage people to not only have empathy for performers because you're out there being vulnerable, for
Oh,
directors
yeah.
because it takes a lot to get something from an idea to the screen, but for the characters themselves. And remember that we're supposed to be rooting for a restoration of balance, not just the vengeance of the killer.
Yeah, yeah, but I think you're right though. There have been like in a violent nature, for example, the way that all of those characters were written, like none of them were likable. None of them had any like we were just like, yeah, get rid of all of them, whatever. But I think that was intentional. Um so I don't know if that's more of they're trying to make the killer more interesting than the camp counselors now or like
Yeah.
what the plan is there, but I mean, I guess we just have to keep reinventing and looking at things differently and making it new and fresh. So I get that.
I think horror is reaching its adulthood. You know, we have
Yes.
right? We have
Yeah.
pre-psycho horror, which is its own kind of like vibe, and then psycho resets the game. And the 80s were sort of like the teenage years where we're doing weird, weird
Oh yeah.
exploitative stuff, you know? And
Oh
then
yeah.
the 90s were like the college age where we're mellowed out a bit, and we reinvented ourselves after college, and now we're like in our adulthood, we have a stable horror job, and like we're making like really good social commentary horror. We're like responsible adults, and I'm interested to see how horror as a genre matures in the coming years, because we are in the middle of a renaissance, and
Yeah.
I think your special is absolutely reflective of that.
Well, thank you, sir.
I appreciate you joining me today and listening to my rambling about horror theory and talking about candles. It was a pleasure sharing this
That
time
was
with you.
that was the best surprise ever. I've never had that bond with anyone so fast, and I'm gonna
Right?
tell my boyfriend he's gonna laugh so hard.
But my wife was like, "Oh, she's like, you are not going to be in search of things to talk about. The candles alone, you could occupy 45 minutes with." Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anything you'd like to leave us on?
I'll be right back. Whoa. I
Yes, that's
I say that
fantastic.
at the end of everything.
That's perfect. As always, stay spooky, my friends.
Dread Alert Media.